Hello everyone, how's it going? Can you believe we're past Valentine's already? Yep, that means we're halfway through February, which means March is around the corner, and it's 12:30, which means that you and I have an appointment. It's time to discuss it with Drake, and that will be me. Can you believe we're already on episode 42? That's right, so today's topic is what should sellers disclose? Yes, the top 10 disclosure musts. But before we get started, just as a reminder, if you ever miss a live episode, all you gotta do is go to YouTube, type in Drake's Real Estate TV, hit subscribe, and you will not miss anything. Okay, so let's get started. Although these 10 categories do not cover everything, okay, it's a good start. And the adage applies, when in doubt, disclose, okay? It's an old truth, when selling, make sure that you disclose everything, because if you don't, guess what? Your neighbors will. So failure to adequately disclose can actually lead to serious legal issues and potential penalties. So historically, buyers did not have a lot of recourse when buying a home, which actually led to the term caveat emptor, meaning let the buyer beware. And as a result of significant abuses, realtor associations actually took steps to protect buyers by instituting disclosure laws and providing forms to help sellers make the process as easy as possible. So that's why you've got a stack of disclosures like this now, right? So although disclosure laws differ from state to state, there are three basic overlying principles. So number one, if you have specific knowledge, you must disclose. If you know that they'll be building a new freeway a block away in the next 3 years, that's a known fact you must disclose. If you see driveway has cracks, disclose it. Do you have an unpermitted mother-in-law suite, an ADU on the back of your property? Disclose it. Have you done any upgrades? Well, disclose in detail. So we always tell our sellers to go through the questions on the disclosure forms and answer each question as truthfully as possible. So if you are confident that the answer to the question is no, say so, okay? If you generally do not know the answer, then you state, do not know, okay? For example, if the form asks if you're aware if there's any asbestos on your listing, and you generally don't know for sure, then you don't know. You're not required to go out and do research. You're only required to disclose what you actually know, okay? So, here are the top 10 categories that sellers must disclose. Number one, it's easy. What comes with the property? So frequently, buyers are going to tour homes with the seller still in residence. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what stays, what's personal property, and what is what's staying. So in our market, for example, the stove, dishwasher, and any other built-in appliances typically stay. But sometimes freestanding refrigerators, washer, and dryers are usually negotiable. Or, is that bookshelf, it's attached, so is it staying or is it a piece of furniture? What about the gazebo in the back? Stuff like that. Okay, number two. What features does the property include? So a few years back, a couple bought a home in a state that had substantially lower disclosure requirements than they had experienced here in California. It was an upscale home, well-established city neighborhood. They tried to do all their due diligence, and they figured that they covered all their bases. But unfortunately, they were very, very surprised when they received a notice from the property management company that the tenant before them actually had reported that they had a failed septic pump. Anyway, septic tank. So they didn't even know that it had a septic tank because it was not a mandatory disclosure. So they missed it. Of course, that's one of the reasons why it's really, really important that you have a local inspector and you lose a local agent and you have an inspection. Okay, these are important things. That's why we stress it. Another thing, number three, are there any significant defects? So whether it's walls, floors, windows, foundations, any other structural parts of the home, the seller needs to disclose any known defects or items that are in poor condition. Pets actually could fit in this category if they have significantly damaged, part of the home, usually flooring. In some states actually require you to disclose active infestations of wood-destroying pests, termites, flood damage, and past insurance claims. So we can talk about that later. Number four, are there any hazardous materials or conditions? So again, most disclosure forms are going to ask if there's knowledge of any materials that they are considered environmental hazards. Asbestos, formaldehyde, radon gas, lead-based paint, mold. Believe it or not, in some places you can have chemical or fuel storage tanks underground because at one point that property was used for a different purpose. So there's lots of things. Disclose. Has there been a death on the property? This is always interesting. Some buyers are opposed to homes that someone has died in. Of course, this is getting more and more difficult as time goes by, right? So many states do actually not require this disclosure, but here we are required to disclose any death on the property that's occurred in the last 3 years. And in some cases, keeping in mind the neighbor's propensity to disclose on your behalf, it's actually, if it's been a violent death, not natural, that occurred outside of that 3 year, you probably should disclose that too. And that just happened. Anyways, are there any disputes with neighbors or local municipalities? So are there any disagreements, over the condition of the local fences, location of fences, maybe, proximity to storage sheds on the property line, or trees with overhanging branches, unpermitted additions, renovations, stuff like that. Number 7, are there any neighborhood noise problems or nuisances? Yes, you must disclose that. So if that loud dog that is continually barking, who annoys everyone in the neighborhood, is yours and moving with you, then you don't need to disclose that. However, if your next door neighbor has 3 pit bulls that bark and rattle the fence, in between your homes, you do need to disclose that. Okay, the same thing applies to trains, busy intersections, airplane paths, school drop-off zones, proximity to venues that hold community events, like concerts and fireworks, or hopefully not that frequent heavy metal party down the street. Perhaps even licensed marijuana dealers 3 doors away, or the family that has 12 cars that takes up all the parking lot. You kind of need to disclose that. There is one caveat here. If you suspect an issue, but you don't have proof, then you don't have to disclose it. For example, if a neighbor told you that, that the neighbor down the street was a registered sex offender, well, you probably should, I would contact a real estate attorney to decide whether you need to disclose that or not, because you don't have proof, okay? So that could actually be considered slander. So it's really, really up to the buyer to do his investigation, and there are databases that have all that information, so it really would be up to them, but don't spread rumors. Number 8, are there organizations that have priority over your property? So if you're selling a property that's in an HOA, a co-op, designated historic area that has an architectural review committee, or anything like that, you must disclose that. And of course, you're going to be providing all pertinent documentation like the CC&Rs and the HOA disclosure package and the like. Just know that those actually have an upfront cost that the seller needs to pay to get those to the buyer. Okay, number 9, almost done. Are there any entities close to your property that might affect the value? So in this case, you're thinking of airports, industrial zones, military bases, storage facilities, refineries, major trucking routes, stuff like that. And number 10, the catch-all. Can you think of anything else the buyer should know? So this is a catch-all category that includes any and all information that the buyer needs to know. All right, there's no specific question. Disclosure discovers it. Well, it's best that you put it here. So additionally, if you received a home in a trust, or you're a landlord who has ever personally lived in the home, you can declare that here as well. It's like, I've never lived in the property, so I really don't know much about it. So some states limit the disclosures required if the home is in a trust or is in a probate and the person who lived in the home is now deceased, because obviously you're not getting much information from them now, right? So that's all I have for you today. I hope you found it useful. I want to give a shout to Inman News for providing all the information that I shared with you today. And always, please don't keep me a secret. Share this with everyone you know. If you have a topic that you would like me to add, please just let me know and I'll add it to the calendar. I should say keep letting me know, because I love hearing from you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. Please be kind to one another. And don't forget to live, laugh, and most importantly, love. And until we see each other again next week, when the next move matters, don't forget to contact Drake for Homes. Thanks, everyone. See you later.